Hello, stupid.
Hello, Saniya.
Hello, Tava. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Did everyone miss us? We took a week off.
Yeah, I doubt they missed us. Maybe they needed a week off from us too.
I know, after like 6 full months of going at it, we
Right?
decided to give you all a break from us for 1 week, and we're back.
Yeah, and it's a Sanya episode, which is great for me because I get to listen and react and sit back and chill.
Yeah, you woke up like what, 10 minutes ago?
I did. I slept in so late. I'm very tired,
It
but
must
it's
be
okay.
nice. I'm
Yeah.
joking. No, I got a good sleep too. We haven't recorded one of my episodes in like almost a month
I
because
know.
we
It's crazy.
pre-recorded before I went on vacation. So this was I keep thinking like, am I still a podcaster? Do I still have it in me? Will I still be able to deliver?
For how long do you think we need to be on a break for you to not be allowed to call yourself a podcaster anymore? Well, first, do you
Um,
call yourself a podcaster?
I never call myself a
Me
podcaster.
neither. Never mind. A moot point. That question is
I
not valid.
know. How long do we need to be doing this to be able to call
Before we
ourselves
call, yeah,
podcasters?
right. That's a fair.
Right?
The better question.
Yeah. You guys tell us. Do you think we're
Yeah.
podcasters?
How's everything? How are you?
Good. Honestly, June was a very busy month.
Mm.
And I'm so excited for this month because I have barely any plans.
Oh, nice.
Other than just like enjoying summer. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited for that. I mean, that being said, it's like not that warm today.
Ugh, don't
Um,
start.
it's like,
Don't start.
yeah.
We
Well,
don't need to know.
let me talk about Vancouver weather, guys.
No. But you do need a break. You do need to chill and be at home and enjoy the weather around your home and
Yeah.
not go anywhere or invite a bunch of people. You just need to sit still for a while because you've been doing the most for the
Yeah.
last year, basically.
Yeah, that's so true. Um, and like, you know what? It's like I say this and then like I feel like I'm gonna slowly start having plans. But so far it's all good. Like I think this month's gonna be good. It's gonna be chill. I'm just gonna enjoy, get back into taking care of myself too. I feel like it's been so busy that like I haven't worked out as much as I wanted to, haven't been eating as healthy
Mm,
as I'd like.
yeah.
I started taking my vitamins again every morning. I like felt like I was dying and I was like, I need to be healthier.
Right.
Yeah, how have you been?
Okay, good. Yeah. Me, no complaints. Having fun.
Nice.
Yeah, the weather is not too hot. We've been through a heat wave, but now it's better. So, why now? Now I'm doing it. God damn
It's
it!
just so easy to talk about weather.
No, I'm good. Everything's fine. I guess it's because we have not much else going on.
Yeah, exactly. Because then I started talking about vitamins. So
Yeah.
it's a bit better to talk about weather.
All right. Well, let's move right into our dad joke for this episode.
Okay, give it to
Um,
us.
are you ready?
Yes.
Oh my god, I couldn't find any good ones this morning, so
Oh no.
beware. Why did Dad quit his job at the store recycling shop?
I don't know.
I don't even know if I read that wrong. Why did Dad quit his job at the shoe recycling shop?
Oh, I thought you said the store recycling shop. I was like,
I
huh?
know, and then that would
Um,
make it
the shoe
the shoe
recycling
recycling.
shop.
Yeah,
'Cause I don't know, something about boots.
because it was soul destroying.
That one was really bad. Actually, that was
It was really
horrible.
bad. I know. I tried. I flipped through so many pages. Okay, how did Sally get the tissue to dance?
She
She put a little boogie in it.
Ew! I actually kind of like it. I don't
Yeah,
mind
that one's
it.
better.
I don't mind it. Oh
All right.
man, dad jokes are so bad. Who came up with these?
I mean,
Um,
there's no author on this book.
I know. It's the church book.
Yeah,
All right, then I guess I'll take us into what I have for you this week.
do it.
It is very like science and factual heavy, so bear with us. But I do think it will be very interesting. All right, so I'm gonna start us off with a pop quiz and make you guess what we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so 60% of this organ is made of fat, making it the fattiest organ in the human body. These fatty acids are crucial for brain's performance, so make sure you're fueling it with healthy and blank boosting nutrients.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you gave it away already. Did you forget to blank part?
Oh my god, I did, didn't I?
Is it the brain?
It's the brain. Did I throw you off with the first line though? The
Yeah, because I thought
fatty?
I thought you were going to talk about skin
Oh,
because I'm
interesting.
like skin is fatty, I guess, but maybe
I
not.
okay, when I read this fact, I was so surprised because I thought it was our liver that's the fattiest.
Oh, well, apparently it's the brain.
It's the brain. Did you guys know that? Surprise!
I'm still counting it as a win.
All right. So, um, I was really excited to deep dive into our brain because I recently found out the fact that our brain isn't even fully developed until we're 25 years old. Meaning,
Mm,
I've only had a fully developed brain for like 4 years now.
I mean,
And
I believe it.
I know, right? And as soon as I found out, I was like, no way. And then I go, that makes complete sense. Think about the decisions you made before you're 25. And then after 20, being 25, think about how you feel about those decisions, you know? It really
Mm-hmm.
makes
Oh
sense.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So the brain development begins from the back of the brain and works its way to the front. We'll go into that a bit more shortly. Our brain is a complex and fascinating organ of our body, and one of the most important. It's made up of a million neurons or nerve cells that communicate in trillion of connections called. I Google how to say this word too. It's
Oh my god.
synapse, but then it's like synapses is the plural. It's spelled
Synapses.
synapses. Yeah, synapses. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
But it's kind of trippy because it's spelled Synapse, so it really throws you off there. So our brain's storage capacity is considered immense. Research suggests that the human brain consists of 86 billion neurons, and each neuron forms connections to other neurons, which could add up to 1 trillion, or sorry, 1,000 trillion or 1 quadrillion connections. Over
Jeez
time,
Christ. Oh my
I know
god.
it's a lot of zeros, right?
Yeah.
Um, Over time, these neurons can be combined and further increase storage capacity. They can also become damaged and stop working, and diseases like Alzheimer's that affects memory in particular. Brain information can travel up to an impressive 350 miles per hour.
Oh my god.
When a neuron is stimulated, it generates an electric impulse that travels from cell to cell. That was a little
That's
brief
crazy.
overview about our brain. And now we're going to kind of talk about how, like, the stages our brain develops. Then we'll go into the parts of our brain and then kind of like brain disorders and other things.
Brain related.
And brain delays, brain delays. I'm like, I had a
Oh,
little brain delay
that's
talking about brain delay. And then
okay.
how
I'm
we can
super
take
excited
care
for
of
this.
our brain.
Actually,
Okay, I'm
this
glad
is
you are.
exciting. Yeah.
So, when do you think our brain starts to develop in our bodies?
Uh, at some stage of the fetal development, I would imagine.
Yeah, totally. I was surprised to learn that it's starts at 25 days after conception. So like
25 days?
very early on, right?
Wow. That is
Um,
surprising.
yeah, so the prenatal stage is when the neural stem cells dividing and forming the foundation of the nervous system. Basic structures such as the spinal cord and the brain begin to form within the first few weeks of gestation. By birth, only the lower portion of the nervous system, so your spinal cord and your brain stems, are very well developed. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, so obviously it's not much, but a huge part of our brain is our spinal cord, which is attaches our brain to our body, right?
This might be silly what I'm thinking, but I'm thinking like I guess it makes sense because if it's like 3D printing, you start from the inside out to to develop. Is that how babies work too? You start from the inside out, like the organs, and then
I guess. Yeah, I guess that's a good way to think of it.
I might be completely wrong though, because maybe babies are not like 3D printing.
Yeah, I don't think babies are like 3D printing, but like, I mean, wait, what do you mean inside out?
Well, you'll have to start with the
Like the
brain
brain?
before you build the skull around it.
Oh, true. Well, yeah, because skulls aren't developed until they're born, right? That's why they're supposed to support their head. Their heads are really squishy.
I mean, part of the skull is still developed. I think it
Is
just
it?
needs to harden.
Oh.
We know so much about baby
I don't know
development.
anything about skulls. I'm talking about the. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I did touch on skulls a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, but I guess like yeah, they're forming it little by little. It also grows with our bodies, right? So it's
Yeah.
like probably literally the size of a pea by like on the 20 when it's conceived or when
Hmm.
the brain starts developing on the 25th day of conception.
Yeah.
Um and then yeah, and then you just have the brain and the spinal cord and then it's in a baby and it comes out of someone. I was going to say comes out of you, hypothetical you. All right, so then there's early childhood. After birth, the brain undergoes rapid growth and development. During infancy and early childhood, neural connections, synapses. Oh my god,
Synapses. I'm pretty sure. I
synapses.
might be wrong though.
No, it's yeah. I'm like 90% sure you're right. Let me just do it one more time. Tell me, Google,
I
how to
mean,
say this word.
I found a like a meme of like a picture of a cake the other day that I sent to Saniya because on the cake instead of saying like get well or happy birthday, it said like did it hurt when you googled it and I was right, and pretty much sums up our relationship.
100%. That's gonna be my birthday cake from you next year, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we took that pause about me mispronouncing things. I was right ish. We both are right. It's synapses. Synapses.
Synapses.
All right. So the neural connections called synapses proliferate at an astonishing rate. This period is critical for learning and acquiring skills such as language, motor coordination, and social interaction. So, this is early childhood. So, from infancy to toddlers to them becoming adolescents. When they're
Mm.
adolescents, the brain continues to develop throughout childhood and adolescence. During this time, there is a process called synaptic pruning, where
Ew.
unnecessary or weak neural connections are eliminated while stronger connections are strengthened. I found
Ugh.
I found that very interesting. I'm like, okay, like I guess like our brains all develop one way, and then I guess the way you form, if you haven't made like, you're not very good at math, but you're a very creative person, your brain starts to like prune the
Prune.
weaker connections and starts giving more to the strong connections in your brain. That's how I kind of
That
understood
is
it.
really cool. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is really cool. However, I hate the term pruning. It's
Snipping.
so gross.
That's how we'll say it then.
Okay.
Um, so this process helps to refine neural circuits and improve efficiency in brain functioning. Now we've reached adulthood, where I think I am. By early adulthood, the brain reaches its peak in terms of size and synaptic density. Wow, these words are hard. However, this doesn't mean the development stops entirely. Throughout adulthood, the brain continues to undergo changes in response to learning, experiences, and environmental factors. Neuroplasticity, which we're going to talk about a bit more
Okay.
shortly, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections is a lifelong process that supports learning and adaptation. So
Hmm.
basically, we're at adulthood, our brain has fully developed. We've learned so much, and now as adults, you want to continue to learn, right?
Hmm.
And support your brain and feed it more things like reading books, learning new activities, practicing the activities you know or the sports you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, the final stage is aging. As individuals enter older adulthood, typically beyond middle aged, the brain undergoes some natural changes. There is a gradual decline in certain cognitive functions, such as processing speed and memory. However, research suggests that activities in such as cognitive stimulation, physical exercise, and social interactions can help brain health and potentially reduce the impact of age-related changes. So now this is when we start to see seniors start to, their brain function is declining.
Right.
Um, but that's also when you see the difference in people like, that are still physically exercising, eating well, reading books, and interacting with people do a little bit better than the people that are not.
So that's a real factor on like brain health.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So this is something I was very interested by. Neuroplasticity. Have you heard about this? I know I just talked about it, but do you know what it means?
Uh, Not much more than the what you already described. Like
Okay.
I know the broad concept of it.
Mhm.
That's it.
So neuroplasticity, that comes out
That's gonna be
so wrong. My lisp.
yeah. Y-
Neuroplasticity, also known as brain plasticity or neuroplasticity, refers to the brain's ability to adapt and reorganize itself through an individual's life in response to new experiences, learning, injury, or disease. Some
mm,
examples of how we demonstrate is by learning a new language,
right.
right? You're challenging your brain by now you know this one language, but now you're teaching it a second language or a
Mm.
third or fourth. Memorizing directions, learning how to play an instrument. Those are all
I
some
think that's
examples.
why they say that like once you're bilingual, learning another language is much easier
Yeah.
because you already have those like neural pathways built
Yeah. And like almost
for
all
like
languages have like little
translating.
connections too.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But like just the brain power that you need to learn a new language, that computing system is already built. So
Yeah.
it's easier to learn
Yeah.
a third one.
That's a really good way to look at it too. Calling your brain a computer.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
it's like the most powerful computer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So neuroplasticity actually brings physical changes inside your cranium. In essence, your brain undergoes a I feel
Sorry.
like I'm getting a random accent while I'm talking right now, right?
You are. It's your scientific accent.
My brain is throwing me curveballs. You're like, hey, you're talking about me? There,
Yeah.
mispronounce this word. In essence, your brain undergoes a sort of rewiring while learning from experiences. But neuroplasticity isn't just about learning new stuff. Your brain's ability to constantly update and reprogram can also power relearning, a critical need after stroke or TBI or any kind of traumatic brain injury. Remember
Mhm.
those physical changes behind neuroplasticity? That building process in your head makes it possible for your brain to bypass damaged areas. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So those synaptic connections essentially create a new pathway to work around those injuries. So if you have,
Mm,
if you've fulfilled your brain by learning all these different things, when you go through a traumatic brain injury, then your brain has the power to relearn around those things, you
right.
know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so, in many ways, physical therapy and rehabilitation activities after stroke or head injury look to use the regenerative force of neuroplasticity. Wow.
Neuroplasticity.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Woof. Okay, so but also like that's also why they're super interested in research like with psilocybin or like magic mushrooms, for example, because like the consumption of psilocybin builds new neural pathways in your brain, like creates new neural pathways in your brain.
Oh, wow. That's so
Yeah,
interesting. I
yeah,
didn't,
yeah. So okay,
I, oh, go ahead.
so they think. I mean, I think that a lot of research still needs to be done, but they think
Mhm.
that it could help in um, like what you were saying, like bypassing damaged areas
Yeah,
or learning new behaviors and stuff like that. So it can help in like therapy to heal from trauma, or it can help in potentially with like recovering
stroke people
yeah,
with a
like
stroke.
yeah, and like helping build new pathways to like control your hand better after a stroke or something like that. Or
Wow.
uh,
That's so interesting. I know I kind of started touching on your brain while it was on different things, or your
yeah.
brain when you're undergoing different things, but there's so much to do with your brain that I
Oh my
really
god,
had to narrow down what I wanted to talk about. I tried
that's
to
fair.
touch on everything that was very exciting for me, but doing something like your brain, to me personally, your brain on drugs, I feel like will be a very interesting episode one day.
That is very
Talking
interesting.
about
Yeah,
different drugs, especially.
yeah, yeah. That would be interesting.
Um, Maybe we can tackle that on together.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, so there's two different types of neuroplasticity. We have structural plasticity, which is the experience that creates pathways to solidify learned information, and then functional plasticity, which is the construction of pathways around damaged areas um, to work around
Mm,
injury or weakness in your head.
nice.
Some ways that you can improve your neuroplasticity in everyday life. This one I really like, and I think I'm going to start trying to do because I am very GPS dependent. I like to, like going to work. I this is a route I do multiple times a
Mm,
week. It's so easy for me to just turn on my GPS, even though I know where I'm turning. I don't even have to think about it. I just
yeah.
rely on my GPS. So a
Mm,
way to kind of practice your neuroplasticity and improve it is to try different routes than your usual routes without your GPS. So like you're going to work, you know how to go to work, you do this every day, but turn off
interesting.
that GPS and try and get yourself lost, but you'll figure it out because your brain kind of knows direction.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin is very much like you. He like turns on the GPS all the time to go to
Hmm.
places. I don't like using it. I will now because like sometimes driving in the city is a nightmare and you think you know where you're going and then it's a bunch of like left turn only and you can't go there or whatever.
Yeah.
But I like to I like to do that too. It's I find it so much more fun to be like, oh, I know about where I'm going. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's almost a dependency having a GPS.
Hmm.
Um, okay, another one, which I tried this morning. It is not easy. Try using your non-dominant hand to do like daily tasks, like brushing your teeth.
Oh yeah, yeah, that
It
would be
wasn't
difficult.
easy, didn't feel satisfying at all. I did switch over to my dominant hand to be like, no, gotta do this right.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think I'm gonna try, like eating with my left hand a bit more, grabbing a bag of chips with my left hand.
it's
Just
kind of crazy how fast you get better at it though,
oh yeah.
because I'm from doing my nails at first with my left hand on the right hand was so difficult,
Hmm.
and now I'm like, oh, I got this. It's fine.
Wow. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I think like yeah, you like if you're not used to it, you start shaking a bit more, but you do have to like
Hmm.
steady it. And yeah, um, yeah, it's to me it's very crazy how like dependent. Like for me, I am on my right hand, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so cool that there are people that are, what's the word?
Ambidext.
Ambidex.
Yeah.
Are you right handed or left handed?
Right-handed.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I was like, maybe you're left handed.
No. Two of my brothers are left-handed though.
No way. And you have only two brothers.
I
Oh,
have
wait, no, you
three.
have
I
three
have a
brothers.
stepbrother
Never
also.
mind. I was like, you mean all of
I
your
have four.
brothers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
All right. Another one's listening to a new genre of music that you're not usually used to. I would say also like
Really
grabbing like a genre of a book that you're not really used to, you know? Uh,
interesting.
yeah. And then just like overall stepping out of your comfort zone, trying a new type of exercise, traveling, trying a sport, um, doing something you
Okay.
haven't done before is a great way to improve your neuroplasticity, which is another way to just say continue learning, I think,
Yeah. 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 What about like eating foods that you haven't ate before and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
I'm sure like different textures in your mouth and stuff like that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Now let's talk
Huh.
about parts of your brain.
Okay.
All right. So this one is
I love how you
so
announce the subjects.
I love announcing subjects, but I also
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many parts are there of your brain.
Oh.
And there's so much to talk about. So as I went in, I got to do all or nothing. It was impossible to do all. So I did have to
Hmm.
kind of pull back and uh, talk about like the biggest ones, the main ones, and then summarize the rest. So, okay, so the main three components of your brain is the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. And if you look at a little diagram, cerebrum is the biggest, and the cerebellum is a bit smaller, and then the brainstem is kind of a stem shaped thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, just gonna bring you back here. Perfect. So the cerebrum is the largest part of your brain, and it's composed of right and left hemispheres. It performs higher functions such as interpreting touch, vision, hearing, as well as speech, reasoning, and emotion. Also, learning and fine control of movement. The cerebellum is located, it's a smaller one located right under the cerebellum. Its function is to coordinate muscle movements, maintain posture, and balance.
Hmm.
And then the brainstem acts as a relay center connecting the cerebellum and the cerebellum to the spinal cord. It performs many automatic functions that we don't think about, such as like breathing, your heart rate, body temperature, wake and sleep cycles, digestion, sneezing, coughing, vomiting, and swallowing.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
So that's like the cruise control center.
yeah, autopilot-ish, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now our cerebellum is divided into two halves.
Okay.
So we have the left and the right hemisphere. They're joined by a bundle of fibers called the corpus callosum that transmits messages from one side to the other. Each hemisphere controls the opposite side of the body. So if you have a stroke on the right side of your brain, your left arm and your left leg may be weak or paralyzed.
Mm.
I think that's very interesting.
It is
Um,
interesting. And it's weird. It's like, why?
yeah. Why are we
Right?
wired like that?
Yeah.
Um, Not all function of the hemisphere are shared. In general, the left hemisphere controls speech, comprehension, arithmetic, and writing, while the right hemisphere controls creativity, um, artistic, and musical skills. And the left hemisphere is dominant in hand use and language in about 92% of the brain. Or, sorry, 92% of people. So, like, I do think there are more right-handed people in the world. That means hemisphere dominated,
Okay.
um,
Okay. Okay.
because it controls your hand use.
Does
Um,
that mean that like left-handed people tend to be more creative? Because they're
Um,
right hemisphere dominant?
yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
And it's so funny now that you said that. I always think about like I feel like always like growing up in school, the people that were really good at like creative stuff were always left-handed.
Um,
Not always, sorry. Were more likely to be left-handed because I felt like left-handed people were a bit more quirky too, you know? And they were like, those art people. But you're an art guy, so now I'm like, but you're not left-handed.
yeah, I'm thinking of my brothers, and I'm like, well, I guess they are creative. Creative.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I'm looking at my brother with through a very critical lens. So
Now you're gonna
so
analyze him all the
I'm
time.
like, no, I don't want to give it to them. But
Yeah.
maybe.
You're like, I want to be the more creative one in the family.
Yeah. If you had to go without right or left, which would you choose?
Go without right and left. What do you mean?
If you had to go without your right hemisphere or your left hemisphere, which one would you choose?
Well, okay, like realistically, like I want to be a right hemisphere because I want to be more creative and artistic and musical. But I just feel like left hemisphere has more like skills that I can use, like speech and writing and stuff
Interacting with
like
the world
that.
around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I'll have to be left hemisphere.
Yeah.
You too, right?
I guess so. Yeah. It makes sense for logistically, it makes sense, but it would be like, sure, I can interact with the world, but what's left of me to interact?
Yeah. The Pisces in you comes out.
Yeah.
I wonder what side of the brain horoscopes are in.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry for the interruption.
No. All right. So lobes of our brain. So the cerebral hemisphere has distinct fissures. To Google this word, it means like cracks and crevices in your brain, which divides your brain into four lobes. The hemisphere has four lobes. We have the frontal, temporal, parietal, and occipital. Each lobe may be divided once again. Sorry, if you're not on video, I'm like really struggling here. And
Yeah.
I had to like give myself like, oh, you're doing it.
Yeah.
All right. So each lobe may be divided once again into areas that are serve very specific functions. It's
Mhm.
important to understand that each lobe of the brain does not function alone. There are very complex relationship between lobes of the brain between the left and right hemisphere. So yeah, no one is
Yeah.
like just right hemisphere and
No.
does not have a left one. You
No.
have both. It's just that one is a bit more dominant than the other. Sometimes it's a lot more dominant depending on the person. So
Right.
what do our lobes actually control? So our frontal lobe controls our personality, behavior, emotions, judgment, planning, problem solving, speech, speaking and writing, movement, intelligence, concentration, and self awareness. So this isn't actually fully developed till you're 25 years old. So I think that makes a little sense as you see, like, intelligence and self awareness and stuff like that is something huge,
Mm.
as well
Yep.
as emotions and behavior. Because I feel like before 25, it's a bit all erratic for everyone, most people.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the parietal lobe, it interprets language and words, sense of touch, pain, temperature. It interprets a signal from vision, hearing, motor sensory, and memory, and then visual perception as well. The occipital lobe, that interprets your vision, so color, light, movement, and the temporal lobe is for understanding languages, memory, hearing, sequencing, and organizing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so
Um. No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, so like, there's so many different little lobes in your brain controlling different things, but not alone. It's not like just your frontal lobe working really
Yeah.
hard when it comes to your behavior. It's also different things, neurotransmitters in your brains as well. There's so much that goes in. We're like a high functioning machine. And
It really is like computer.
it's,
It really,
yeah,
really is like a computer. It's crazy.
exactly.
Um, but I was going to say, do we know why it takes 25 years for your frontal lobe to develop? Like, it feels like a very long time.
No, I didn't really look at the why behind it. I just saw like it's brain development. I think it just goes slower. Like, and
Yeah,
if you think about it, like if our life expectancy is supposed to be 100 plus, up until 25 is just such a small part of our lives.
but is it supposed to be 100 plus our life expectancy?
It's supposed to be. Humans are supposed to live for hundreds of years, right?
How
But
do you
like with
mean?
disease and stuff like that, we die off a lot quicker.
I didn't know that.
I thought we are. I thought we are. Is that not okay? So
I guess
what
right,
is?
but I'm gonna do my own research.
Let's do it. Expectancy for humans.
This is
Okay.
riveting
See, I mean, it
content.
depends on life, right? So from 2000 to 2019, it was 66.8 years. Oh. Okay,
Yeah,
how long
but
can
that
humans live naturally? Okay, there. Fortune.com says while researchers contend that natural limits sit around 120 to 140 150 years, um, but others speculate that the limit does not exist, that aging doesn't necessarily lead to death.
I see that same link.
Hmm. I
Wait,
thought we were supposed, yeah, like I thought we were supposed to live a really long time, but because of like
disease.
diseases and aging and just pollution and all these things, we do die off sooner.
Well, I think we've in history we've never lived as old as we do now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but
Well, life expectancy. Stay tuned for that episode next, guys.
right. Okay, sorry. Moving on.
um,
So we.
but okay, even if
Sorry.
let's go back to like I think the one of the things I saw is like life expectancy is like around 80 right now in
Mhm.
North America. So 25 years is still such a insignificant part of your life,
No,
right?
that's true. That's true. But you'd think that from a evolutionary standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I'm struggling too. Oh my god, you'd want it to be ready for full capacity the sooner, as
Mm-hmm.
soon as possible.
Well, I will kind of touch upon like what scientifically happens in our brain, like from when we're like
Okay.
reaching our
Yeah.
maximum. So maybe that will help
Yeah.
understand it. I'll just finish up my parts of your brain real quick.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, you're fine. It's all fascinating stuff. All right. So the surface of your cerebellum is called the cortex. It's folded appearances. It has folded appearances with hills and like valleys. So that's what you kind of think of the brain when it has that little like squiggly kind of appearance. The
Yeah.
cortex contains 16 billion neurons, while the cerebellum has 70 billion neurons. So that's a total of 86 billion neurons that we talked about earlier. So, all right, the nerve cell bodies color the cortex a gray browning, giving its name the gray matter. So, we have the gray matter in our brains, and then beneath the cortex are long nerves, fibers that connect the brain areas to each other called white matter. Um,
Mm.
there was so much to this, and I was like, whoa, like I didn't even know this existed. Have you heard about the gray and the white matter in our brains before?
The gray matter, yes. The
Okay,
white matter, I didn't know, but like the gray matter, I think it's used in like TV language and stuff like that a lot, and just like on
yeah,
shows you hear it and stuff.
yeah.
So
Um,
the gray matter, if I understood properly, that's where all like the neuron connections is happening, right?
yeah, so that's the nerve cell bodies. that are gray colored. So that's why they're the gray matters. And then um, underneath the cortex is long nerve fibers, and those connect the brain to each other areas that are the white matter. That's the white matter.
Right. Okay. 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 Okay.
The folding in the cortex increases the brain's surface area, allowing more neurons to fit inside the skull and enabling higher functions. Each
Hmm.
fold is called gyros, and each groove between the fold is called a sulcus.
Oh.
There are
Okay.
names for the fold and grooves that help define specific brain regions. So I did want to talk a little bit about our neurotransmitters. So they're chemicals that the brain cells use to talk to each other. Have you heard of neurotransmitters?
Yeah, but only
Perfect.
because I helped a lot just in study for some exams last his last semester, and
Oh,
I had to quiz him on neurotransmitters a lot.
okay. So how about you tell us some neurotransmitters?
Oh my god, I don't know if I remember them by name, but I know that like some are chemical.
Okay.
So like they create a specific chemical that or they can receive a specific chemical that means a specific like command or message or whatever.
Hmm.
And then some are electrical, I think. I'm not sure.
So um, we have neurotransmitters that make cells more active, and those are called excitatories, while there are other that block or dampen cell activities that are called inhibitories.
Right. Okay.
So acetylcholine is an excitatory neurotransmitter, and it governs the muscles trans- contractions and causes glands to secrete hormones. So
Hmm.
when you have Alzheimer's, that affects your memory, right? And that's when there's a shortage of acetylcholine
Hmm. Sure.
neurotransmitters.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So some popular ones that we all know is serotonin,
Yeah.
which is a neurotransmitter that constricts blood vessels and brings on sleep. So it is also involved in temperature regulation. Low levels of serotonin may cause sleep problems and depression, while too much serotonin can lead to seizures. Um,
Interesting.
and then we also know dopamine. This can be an excitatory or an inhibitory one, and it is involved in mood and the control of complex movements. The loss of dopamine activity in some portions of the brain leads to muscle rig- rigidity, rigidities of Parkinson's disease.
Mm.
Many medication used to treat mental health disorders and condition work by modifying the action of dopamine in your brain.
I just something just clicked. So you said it's for mood and complex movement. Is that why like exercise, for example, gets you in a better mood
Boost
because you
your
have to produce more
dopamine.
dopamine? And like dancing is complex movement also, and it gets you in a better mood because it boosts your dopamine
I
for the
think
complex
so.
movement.
Yeah, like I
That's
think that makes sense,
interesting.
right? Like going for a run and stuff
Oh,
like that really help out with your movement. Um, and yeah, sitting around, you have low levels of dopamine and you don't feel that good, you know?
that is interesting. Also, do you know how caffeine work? I thought caffeine and like melatonin and the relationship between the two was really interesting.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically, the neurotransmitter for melatonin,
Mm-hmm.
um, the the shape of it is the same as caffeine. So I'm gonna butch this completely, but so basically you have a neurotransmitter for melatonin, and as time goes by during the day, more and more melatonin goes in, and it signals to your body that, or to your brain, or to whatever, that you're getting tired,
Okay.
right? But if you consume caffeine, it goes and blocks so those receptors, so melatonin can't like dock there, so that you don't get the signal
Oh,
that you're tired,
that's so crazy.
isn't it?
Oh, I didn't know that at all, actually. Makes 100% sense.
Yeah. So
Um,
they say that when you sleep, it releases the melatonin from those receptors again. So that they say that the best thing to do is to take caffeine just before like a 15-minute nap, because by the time you digest the caffeine, will have freed from the nap, you will have freed all those receptors. Caffeine will dock in, and then when you wake up again, you'll be able to be less tired for a longer period of time.
what? Have you ever tried
Yeah.
that?
No, because I always forget.
I know. And also, like, I'm like, I feel like caffeine like hits me quicker, like quickly than 15 minutes.
You really have to like be like all set up for your nap, down your shot of coffee, and then go for your nap.
I'm gonna try it for science sake, and I encourage someone else to do this experiment as well. Report back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a bad napper already, so I don't know how well that'll go.
Right.
Um, all right, so obviously there's, like I said before, the brain's anatomy is so complex. I could go on forever. We have the skull, ventricles, cerebrospinal fluid, cranial nerves, the hypothalamus, the thalamus. But I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I'm going to put everyone to sleep if I keep going on. But overall, each part of the brain interacts with others to produce complex behaviors and responses to the environment. Damage or dysfunction to specific brain regions can lead to various neurological conditions affecting cognitive abilities, movement, sensation, and overall quality of life. Um, okay, so you were wondering about what happens, about how why is the brain fully developed so late in life, or not so
Yeah.
late in life, but in our late 20s, right?
Yeah.
So, an adult brain differs from an adolescent brain in many ways. Between childhood and adulthood, the brain loses gray matter as axis neurons and synapses are pruned away.
Oh my
Favorite
god.
word.
Ugh.
The rate of loss slows down by when a person reaches their late 20s. At the same time, some brain regions strengthen their connection with each other, and major nerve contract tracks become wrapped in insulated myelin, which increases the brain's white matter. So white matter volume peaks around age 40.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
I know. So the prefrontal cortex, which isn't fully developed until our mid 20s, performs reasoning, planning, judgment, impulse control, and necessities of being an adult. Without the fully developed prefrontal cortex, a teen might make poor decisions, have a lack of the inability to discern whether a situation is safe or not. Teens tend to experiment with risky behavior and don't fully recognize the consequences of their choices, which is like, I
Hmm.
feel like I can relate, right? When you're a teenager, you make so many decisions and you don't think about the consequences, where now I'm like, oh my god, like I don't even want to step outside my house anymore, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah. So on the other hand, in adults, the frontal cortex is completely developed. They're able to process and organize information. Adults who are emotionally and psychologically healthy are able to judge risky behaviors and factor into the decision making of the consequences of their choices.
Okay.
um, Teenagers might rely more on their amygdala, the part of the brain dealing with emotions, whereas adults rely more on our frontal cortex, leading to balanced thinking and behaviors. In fact, other parts of the brain that are still developing are certain networks of brain cells that link the prefrontal cortex to regions of the brain that are less about reasoning and thinking and more about emotion.
Mm,
Yeah. So I guess
that's
that
super
doesn't
interesting.
it doesn't really answer why it's developed in that age, but it more
But
answers how.
I think it's that balance between um, plasticity and like stronger like connections,
Hmm.
because it's like you say that like as you age on, you do more white matter around the nerves, like which like strengthening the nerves,
Mm-hmm.
which I imagine makes them less plastic because I think it's a gray matter that's more like plasticity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's between like okay, well, and like that whole pruning thing. It's okay, well, let's give time to figure out what he needs and what he doesn't need before we kind of
Yeah.
solidify them. And
Yeah.
it's finding that right balance between like okay, well, he needs solid nerves but he also needs time to, I say he because I'm thinking of me,
Yeah.
he needs more time to figure out what's useful to him in life kind of thing.
Exactly. And like that's why all of our brains, although they're created same, turn out to be so different because it's also impacted by our life choices
Yeah,
and all those things and just what we're consuming, like,
yeah,
by the books we're reading, the shows we're watching, the people we're around, and
yeah.
just physically eating as well.
So like similarly, though your 20s are or like teens and early 20s are a time that you will make bad decisions and mistakes and stuff like that, they're also a time to experiment as much as you can
Yeah.
because you have all that plasticity still.
Yeah. And I think it's like, yeah, you're making these decisions not because they're bad, because you don't think of the consequences, but you're leading with emotion, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I think
yeah,
like, yeah, that's why like, um kids can't make their own decisions or like can't vote till they're 18 because they're not really fully formed yet. That's why, like
yeah,
you shouldn't be drinking at such a young age either because your brain's still growing, you know?
yeah.
And I think if you're drinking and leading with emotions at the same time, it won't be a good recipe. And we've all done it, but
We've all done it, yeah.
yeah,
There's things that you learn only from experience that everyone can tell you over and over again, but the only way to really learn it is to experience it.
yeah. And I mean, it just makes so much more sense. Like, like the way I acted in my early 20s, it makes
Yeah,
so much sense. Like, I had the same job and I was just such a different person,
yeah, I know,
and like
right? Ugh,
it's so crazy to look at yourself under that like lens. But then like when I'm looking at
it's
some
so
of the decisions
embarrassing.
I make, so embarrassing. And I'm
Yeah,
looking at some decisions and I was like, oh my God, my amygdala definitely took over there. And
yeah.
it's like now I'm like, okay, definitely thinking with my prefrontal cortex right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's touch a little bit on brain disorders and developmental delays, which I feel like I've had throughout this episode.
Oh my god.
Okay, so some autoimmune diseases, multiple scoliosis, also known as MS, is a disease that affects both the brain and the spinal cord. In MS, the immune system attacks a protective layer that covers nerve fibers, causing communication problems between the brain and the body. A spinal cord is one of the main sources of communication between our brain and the in our
Mhm.
bodies. So there's some degenerative disorders that are often due to the accumulation of abnormal proteins in your brain. These disorders include Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease actually affects more than 6 million people. We have Parkinson's, ALS, and others. They are most often slowly progressive and interfere with thought, memory, movement, or combination of these things. They're more common in elderly people, and they also run in families.
Yeah.
Neurodevelopmental disorders affect the growth and development of your brain and are usually cared for by pediatric neurologists. Medical geneticists may determine whether a disorder is likely to be inherited. If it is, they provide the family with resources. There's a large number of neurodevelopmental disorders. Um, so they include ADHD, autism spectrum disorder. This
Mm.
disorder occurs in about 1 in 44 children. We have
Oh wow, that's a
dyslexia.
lot.
Yeah, dyslexia. And then epilepsy is the tendency to have seizures. So a seizure is an electrical storm in your brain, typically interfering with conscious and causing typically interfering with your consciousness and causing
Hmm.
convulsions, which is like
Convulsions. Yeah.
they're like uncontrollable movements.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Some seizures can be subtle, only causing clouding in consciousness or uncontrollable movements in one part of your body.
Mm.
Epilepsy impacts 1.2% of the population, including 3 million adults and 470,000 children.
In
Uh,
Canada.
no, I believe this is like a global fact. Let's see, where is this from?
Oh
This
yeah.
is nm.org,
Okay.
northwesternmedicine.org. All right. Um, all right. And then mental illnesses such as anxiety, depression, schizophrenia are due to brain processes and therefore are a mental disorder. Psychiatrists and psychologists generally treat mental illness. If your brain were a computer, and in some ways it is, our brain would be like a program. Your brain would be like a program running in it. In other words, your brain is the operating system, and then psychiatrists and psychologists are the computer programmers who are trying to find out what program is causing your brain to be in distress, right? And
Yeah.
what's not working the way it should be. Um, Strokes are occur when blood vessels supplying your brain with the nutrients it needs gets blocked or burst. Either way, the
Mm.
effect are sudden. Stroke damages just a part of your brain, but can lead to problems with speech, understanding, vision, strength, sensation, or coordination. And then if a lot of your brain or you have multiple strokes, if a lot of your brain is damaged or you have multiple strokes, it can also lead to dementia.
Oh, so
TBI,
stroke doesn't lead to death.
no, not always.
Oh.
There's a lot of people that have stroke, and then they lose movement on one side of their body.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's caught early, right? If someone can have a stroke and die, yeah, but just kind of like heart attack as well. It doesn't
Right.
always kill you.
Fair. 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 Okay.
Um, Traumatic brain injuries, also known as TBI, include concussions and more serious brain injuries such as gunshot wounds. It can happen during a fall, auto accidents, sport injuries. We commonly hear about it with like football or domestic violence. Repeated head
Hmm.
trauma can cause brain scarring, lead to chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. Um, and neurosurgeons may take care of pertaining injuries or bleeding, and psychologists, psychiatrists, and speech therapists can may be consulted for behavior and thinking problems after brain injuries. Neurologists often take care of the injuries as well, and then lastly, we're going to talk about brain tumors.
Hmm.
They can develop when cancers spread from other parts of your body to your brain. So if you have tumors in your lung, it can spread to your brain. But if you have tumors in your brain, um, they don't spread that easily to the rest of your body. So unlike tumors spreading from other places in your body, tumors arising in your brain or in its brain covering its cells are considered benign. But if they grow slow, and that's if they grow slowly and don't invade
Yeah.
the brain tissue. Um, but then if they are growing fast, they start invading the brain tissue, and it can be something a lot more serious.
Right. Right. Right.
Those are all very scary things that can happen in your
They are
brain.
very scary. Yeah.
But there are ways to, get some help, or there's also ways to prevent, not prevent, but, take care of your brain. So obviously, leading a healthy lifestyle is a big one. Always learning is huge. Read a book, listen to
Right.
music, listen to podcasts about your
Yeah.
brain.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Um, Eating healthy food is also a great way. So I'm going to end
Right.
this on some superfoods for your brain.
Okay.
Um, because I feel like that's always good to know. Do you think you know any? Well, you kind of touched
I
on one.
think they change every 2 3 years. Like people, like it's just superfood are trends.
That's so
Like
true.
right.
But like there's those things where it's like, when like for me, it's like when I'm feeling like I have low iron, which is very
Hmm.
common for me. It's like, okay, I need some steak to help boost up these nutrients in my body, or like red meat
Right.
and things like that, right?
Right.
Um, so when you're feeling a little foggy in your brain, you're like, oh, I need something to get me to focus or to
Yeah.
help me learn.
Yeah.
Reach for those green leafy vegetables. I feel like that can be good for a lot of different things.
Right. Just fibers
Um,
and
exactly. So you get vitamin K, lutein, folate, and beta carotene.
okay.
Um, but basically, plant-based foods decline, may help slow cognitive decline. Fatty fish, because omega 3 is a great
Hmm.
source for that as well. And it helps prevent Alzheimer's disease. So it's good to eat fish.
Yeah.
Berries as well. Berries help with memory.
Oh.
Um, Tea and coffee, which I'm like, oh, I like this one.
Ah,
Uh,
thank God.
Caffeine in the morning or tea helps with concentration boost as well. Um,
Okay.
a study published in the Journal of Nutrition, participants with higher caffeine consumption scored better on tests of mental function. uh, Caffeine might also help solidify new memories. According to the research, investigators at Johns Hopkins University asked participants to study a series of images and then take either a placebo or a 200 milligram caffeine tablet. And more members in the caffeine group were correctly able to identify the images the following day. I feel
Oh,
like
interesting.
we all need a little caffeine boost if you need another
Yeah.
reason to have
Right.
coffee in the morning. And then lastly, walnuts are a great source of protein and healthy fats. And then also helps improve memory. It's both good for your heart and your brain.
Walnuts.
Walnuts.
Oh, they're
They
also
have
delicious.
omega 3 in them. That's what helps.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's another one like the episode 2 weeks ago. That's like every bullet point can be an episode on its own.
100%.
Like there is so much to learn, but that was a really interesting overview.
Well, yeah, and like when I was like looking at the brain, it's like giving me a lot. It's like I think I was looking at podcasts about brains, and then it was a lot about like how to prevent your brain from doing this, or how does your brain help you with this, how to rewire your brain, and all of these. And I was like, okay,
Right.
I'm gonna try and focus on just your brain and its contents today. And I'd
Yeah.
love to kind of like do a second parter on this in the future about like
Yeah.
I feel like brain on drugs or
Yeah. That's interesting.
brain after something traumatic,
Yeah.
brain disorders
Yeah.
itself. Um, but yeah, hopefully this
Yeah.
little quick little anatomy lesson on your brain um, was insightful for you guys.
That's very interesting.
Yeah,
Good
and
job. Well done.
I feel like it made me also like cut my when I was younger than 25 self a little slack, and I'm like I wasn't
Oh,
thinking, but also now like ever since I like read this little fact, I'm like it makes sense and we should go a little easy on those people that don't have a fully developed frontal cortex yet you know
the problem is that we give a lot of responsibilities to those people
exactly. it
and
does feel
a
very
lot of
late in
power.
life. Yeah, because if they can
Yeah.
vote at 18 but they're still not thinking with they don't even have a full brain yet, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. um
But also, if they can get thousands of dollar loan from the bank for studying or for anything,
yeah,
they can make a lot of decisions that will impact their entire life.
exactly. You know what, you're totally right. Like yeah, they're expected to make this decision that's go to school for something that's going to impact the rest of your life, take on all this loan, And then it's
Mhm.
like, actually, you just got your brain at 25, but now you already have that racked up. So figure it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, take care of yourself and take care of your brain, everyone.
Yay! Well, thank you so much. That was fascinating. And we'll see you all in. Well, we won't see you. We won't hear you either, but you'll hear us and see us potentially in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That was a fun outro for me.
I know, potentially so vague.
Yeah. Okay. Bye,
Thanks for
everyone. See you
listening.
soon. Thanks for
Bye.
listening.
Tell Me Like I'm Stupid is created and produced by us, Saniya and Thomas. You can follow us on Instagram at Tell Me Like I'm Stupid.
If you'd like to support us, please subscribe and review on your favorite podcast streaming platform. Our cover art was created by Ish. Find him on Instagram at h.e.e.s.h.
Thank you for listening.